Rempe Mania is still running wild, but did the rookie cross the line in the Rangers' 3-1 win over the New Jersey Devils? We debate and much more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1024 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, obviously, another very convincing win for the Rangers. You know, the second game after the trade deadline, the second game after that mini break that the Rangers had. You know, of course, they went from last Monday until just 2 days ago on Saturday without playing any games. And they certainly look refreshed. And the new guys, you know, Roslovic and Wennberg continue to fit in and play solid hockey for this team. And another one of those games where, just like the last one, it felt like there was never a reason to believe that the Rangers would not ultimately prevail in this game. It's not like it was the most lopsided score that you'll ever see, 3-1. And in fact, the one goal for the Rangers was an empty netter. But for the most part, I thought they controlled the action in this game and just played better hockey than the Devils did. And ultimately got the 2 points that they were looking to get tonight. And obviously, you just hope you can keep things rolling. Big matchup tomorrow night against the Carolina Hurricanes, or later tonight, Tuesday night, depending on when you might be listening to this. But I want to kick off today's episode by talking a little bit about Matt Rempe and everything that he did in this game. It really is amazing how much you notice him and how much of an impact he makes on a seemingly nightly basis, despite not usually getting a ton of ice time. There was a game not too long ago, I believe it was the one before this, where he ended up with like 11 minutes, but that was, you know, far and away the most ice time that he's gotten, you know, thus far in the NHL. In this game, he only gets 4 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time. And obviously that was due to the fact that he was assessed a match penalty near the end of the second period. So Matt Rempe's stat lines, I mean, they look as crazy as probably any player in hockey. So no points in this game. He was a +1, one shot on goal, 2 hits, 4 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time, 1-0 on the faceoff circle, and a whopping 15 minutes in penalties. This is also the second time that he's been assessed a match penalty. And to kind of just go through his night and everything that happened, because it wasn't just, you know, the big hit and the questionable hit that he had. We'll get to that, of course, and him getting the match penalty. But he was doing some good things for the Rangers early in this game. To begin with, he was being regularly challenged to fight early in this game by MacDermid and declined to do so. And I think that's, you know, a sign of understanding just kind of the pulse of the game a little bit. We've seen Rempe in recent games decline to fight, you know, this player or that player. He did it again in this one and just wanted to play hockey. And he made some good plays for the Rangers. There was a goal that made it 2-0 in favor of the Rangers, and that goal was scored by Erik Gustafsson. But this all started when Matt Rempe had to take the faceoff. They had booted Barclay Goodrow out of the faceoff, and it's an offensive zone draw, and Rempe wins it fairly clean. He got a little bit of help from, I want to say, Veazey over there on the right side. But regardless, you know, he won the faceoff, and the Rangers never gave up possession of the puck. They eventually work it to Gustafsson. Gustafsson takes a shot from the point and goes straight into the net. You know, didn't deflect off of anyone or anything, and just went right in and gave the Rangers a 2-0 lead. But Matt Rempe was in front of the net and providing a screen, obviously creating some traffic. He's a big guy, so just by being there, you're going to cause some issues for the goalies. And having another net front presence for the Rangers is certainly a good thing. Then, of course, we get to I don't want to even say theatrics, just kind of the controversy. That's probably the best word I can say. You've got the very next shift. Rempe delivers a hit into the boards, and this one was clean. There was nothing wrong with it. Play continues, and then another hit by Rempe on Siegenthaler, and we get a whistle. MacDermid was chasing Rempe around and basically trying to attack him, and Rempe's being escorted off the ice by the officials. Rempe is waving at the Devils bench while all this was happening. I assume they were probably saying some things that I can't repeat on here. But you look at the replay, not a good hit at all by Matt Rempe. We got to call this fairly. I know there's going to be some people that say, oh, that's old school hockey. And you know what? That's not good. That stuff doesn't need to be in the game. And I think the ultimate, kind of litmus test here, imagine somebody on the Devils or even like the Penguins or the Flyers, the Capitals, one of these teams with which the Rangers have no love lost. Imagine Tom Wilson doing something like this to a player on the Rangers. We would not be happy about it. We'd be calling for fines and suspensions and the whole 9 yards. Now, the difference, of course, I shouldn't even compare him to Tom Wilson. That's a bridge too far because Tom Wilson has had just, countless bad moments on the ice, very, very dirty moments from Tom Wilson. Matt Rempe just got here, but this was not a good hit. Again, he very clearly seemed to raise his arms as he was getting towards Siegenthaler, caught him in the side of the head, and then all hell broke loose. And of course, again, he is assessed the match penalty and ends up having to leave the game. And again, I didn't like this hit. I wouldn't be surprised if the NHL, you never know with these guys because, just spin the roulette wheel, and that's the punishment that will be given to Matt Rempe here because it feels like they are very random when it comes to this kind of a thing. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he hears from the league, if he gets the maximum allowed, which is of course only $5,000. If he's suspended for, I don't know, maybe 2 games somewhere in that ballpark, would not surprise me in the slightest. Again, didn't like the hit. I got to be fair here. I know if somebody did that to a player on the Rangers, I would not be happy about it at all. So we got to keep things consistent on here. And obviously, again, not a good hit by Rempe. The good news is that the Rangers were able to kill off the ensuing 5-minute power play for the Devils. They got the 5-minute, major to Rempe. And I should also mention that MacDermid was assessed a 10-minute misconduct. I don't want to forget about that either for his actions and the way he behaved after this whole thing went down here. But that's another aspect to this whole thing. Rempe, everything's going great for the Rangers. They're up 2-0, and then Rempe takes a run at somebody and elbows him in the head, and this game could have turned. If the Devils get a goal or maybe even 2 goals, it is a 5-minute major, and of course the whole 5 minutes are going to play out no matter how many goals they score. We could be having a different conversation here, and it's just something like that could cost the Rangers the game. You hope that it's a learning experience for Matt Rempe, obviously a very young and inexperienced player who's still kind of getting his feet wet in the NHL. Despite all the fights and all the controversy that seems to be following him at times. But again, the good news, Ranger penalty kill was on point this entire game, and this 5-minute major was no exception. You had about 30 seconds left in the second period when all this went down. So the first 30 seconds of the power play occurred for the Devils at the end of the second period, and then you had about 4:30 for the opening minutes of the third period, and the Rangers were able to kill it off. A lot of guys making plays here. I thought Miller and Schneider both were very good. Miller broke up he made a nice play to break up a rush. You had Kreider with a big clear. Miller a little bit later in this PK steals the puck and clears. Wennberg was making a couple of plays out there too. It's interesting to see Wennberg seem to already kind of establish himself as an important penalty killer for the Rangers. We know they've got some good ones, and he just it's an embarrassment of riches as far as the Ranger penalty killers, the guys that they can put out there. It's been a very strong unit all season, and the addition of Wennberg helps there as well. And the Rangers, deservedly so, got a standing ovation from the Garden Faithful once they had killed off this 5-minute major and, of course, preserved their 2-0 lead heading into the remainder of the game, the remainder of the third period. Just good stuff all around. And again, I'm not going to go in on Rempe and label him like he's this or he's that. I just didn't like the hit. I wouldn't like it if somebody did that to the Rangers, and I got to be fair on here. You guys let me know what you think in the comments section. Would love to hear from everybody there and get everybody's opinion. In just a second, we're going to shift our attention to Mika Zibanejad snapping his lengthy drought of not scoring a 5v5 goal. We're also going to talk about the play that Roslovic made to basically make that happen, and we're going to do that and a whole bunch of other stuff. Got to talk about Jonathan Quick as well. We'll do all that in just a second. First, though, we definitely would like to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. It's almost the halfway point of the season, Ranger fans, and the Rangers have been on top of the Metro from coast to coast. But regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Panarin or Kreider or Mika or Lafreniere will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Ranger fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you will get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleepers, terms of use for details and locational availability. Also want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Want to shift our attention to Mika Zibanejad finally scoring a 5v5 goal. I want to talk about Mika in general here, though, because obviously it's been a struggle at times. He was going through, even coming into this game, I believe it was 6 games in a row without even a point for Mika Zibanejad, much less a very specific 5v5 goal. And you're trying to think about ways to get him going. And I know some people have kicked around the idea of, well, maybe break up him and Kreider, and you could go with Mika centering Panarin and Lafreniere. It's an idea. It's an option that's certainly on the table. But I feel like with Mika Zibanejad, he's supposed to be the guy that can elevate people around him. And we've seen him do that in the past, but he's supposed to be the guy that can elevate people around him, can obviously, boost players and kind of lead the way for a line. He shouldn't be the guy that you need to get him going by shuffling everything else around it and breaking up the one line, of course, the Panarin line, that's been awesome for the Rangers every single season. And maybe that's part of Laviolette's thinking process here. Maybe his idea is that, okay, Kreider and Mika, they need to be able to figure it out. I'm not going to break them up. Sooner or later, they have to get it going. I mean, these are supposed to be basically, I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but this is basically your second and third best forwards on the team. And they need to start playing like it. And hopefully, the tide is turning. It looked like a weight off of the shoulders of Mika Zibanejad when he finally got this 5v5 goal. You could tell he was relieved. So that's obviously good. And hopefully, that just starts the avalanche. And we see Mika, start to pile up some more 5v5 goals and just be more productive offensively in general. And I'll also say what I said going into the trade deadline, because, again, this talk about breaking up Mika and Kreider, we've talked about it. Certainly people on Twitter have talked about it. Beat writers have talked about it. It's something that continues to come up. They've asked Laviolette that question a couple of times. So for me, the trade deadline was right around the corner when people started to really make noise about this again, and it's time to break them up. So that being the case, I felt like going into the deadline, it was kind of like, all right, let's wait and see what happens here. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of moves for the Rangers and probably a couple of new faces on this team. And indeed there are. And their new line mate is Jack Roslovic. And my idea was, okay, figure out what's going to happen here and how that's going to reconfigure the lineup, and then give them a little bit more time with whomever their new line partner is, their new line mate is. And again, it's Roslovic, and we're only 2 games into that, but it was nice to see Mika get the 5v5 goal there. And I do think that line has looked a little bit better these last couple of games here. And honestly, Jack Roslovic, I don't believe, as of during the game, he was not credited with an assist on the goal that Mika Zibanejad scored, and he still has not been given one. And I'm not sure he ever made contact with the puck, but this was a big-time play. by Jack Roslovic. He made the whole thing happen here. Basically, the puck is behind the goal line for the Devils, and Lazar loses control of the puck, and eventually Kreider gets it in front to Mika. Mika with a backhand shot from the front of the net, and he buries it. And when you watch the replay, I mean, you see just how good Roslovic was on this play, because he got in there like he was shot out of a cannon on the forecheck, really went to work. He was basically battling for the puck, and it was like 1-on-2. You know, he had two Devils players there. I believe one of them was Siegenthaler, and the other was definitely Lazar. And, you know, he's fighting to get the puck away from these guys. And eventually he does that and forces Lazar to, you know, give the puck away to Kreider. Kreider picks it up. He's still behind the net. And like I said, he passed in front, backhand goal for Mika Zibanejad. That's also Mika Zibanejad's 20th goal of the season. 7 straight 20-goal seasons for Mika. And he trails only Rattel, who had 8. So Mika's going to have a chance to tie that record for the Rangers next season. But again, cannot say enough about the job that Jack Roslovic did here to make this whole thing happen. And hopefully he continues to click with Mika and Kreider. You know, they interviewed him during one of the intermissions, and he said he's just trying to be a sponge right now and get to know Mika and Kreider. He mentioned he's kind of familiar with them because obviously the Jackets and Rangers play each other enough times, and he's seen them enough times, and he kind of knows what they're all about. But yeah, so far so good for this line. And again, you hope that Roslovic, you know, fares better or clicks better, I guess you could say, with Mika and Kreider than some of the other Ranger right wingers that we've seen. And I'm not putting it on all the right wingers. You know, Mika and Kreider have to be better themselves. But regardless, again, you just hope that that line gets going and plays the best hockey that it's played all season, because they're definitely going to have to do that come playoff time. As far as Mika in this game, though, I mean, you got to give him some props. Again, he hung in there. He eventually got the 5v5 goal. His versatility really on display here. He ended up with, I mean, to begin with, his time on the ice was 22:51. That was more than a minute more than any other Ranger forward, and doing a lot of work on the power play as well as the penalty kill. He was out there for 4 minutes, 51 seconds on the power play, 4 minutes and 10 seconds on the penalty kill. Ends up with 7 shots on goal, so at least he's firing the puck at the net. You do like to see that. 1 hit. He was also a +1 and went 7 and 4 on the face-off dot. So a good night for Mika Zibanejad. And, you know, while we're talking, we've kind of mixed in some Roslovic talk here. I wanted to mention, I thought Wennberg was very good in this game too. Mentioned him very briefly during the 5-minute major that we were talking about that was assessed to Matt Rempe. I thought Wennberg was one of the standouts when it came to the penalty kill. Wennberg was on the ice for 1 minute and 43 seconds of PK time. And at even strength, it seems like him and Cooley and Kakko have some good chemistry, you know, some good passing on this night. And they should have had a goal. I mean, I don't know how this puck stayed out, but basically you had Cooley driving hard to the net up the left side. The save was made. The puck is basically like rolling along the goal line, and Kakko's there to try to bury it, but I think it was Luke Hughes that prevented him from doing that. And then the puck basically is rolling back in the other direction, still, you know, an inch, maybe 2 inches in front of the goal line, and somehow just doesn't go in. But overall, again, you know, Roslovic and Wennberg, I know some people wanted the Rangers to aim higher, but I do think that the two of them have fit in pretty well, you know, at least thus far. And we'll see how it goes going forward. It was awesome to see Roslovic, you know, the new guy, have such a big hand, and Mika Zibanejad finally breaking out of that slump, or at least, you know, snapping that streak of going as long as he did without an even strength goal. So we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to shift our attention to Jonathan Quick and just how well he played, how well he continues to play. Also going to talk about the Ranger defense. And, you know, maybe we'll throw in an unsung hero there as well. And then we could pretty much call it, and, you know, everybody can have a good night. But we'll do that in just a second. First, we definitely would like to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. All right, let's go ahead and definitely shift our attention to Jonathan Quick. He was pretty close to getting the shutout in this one. How much time was left? I think it was 2:34 when the Devils finally scored their goal. Quick just wasn't able to find the puck through some traffic. Just shot from the blue line, I believe, from Nemec, and obviously lost the shutout there. And Rangers had to hold on at the end and ultimately get that game-clinching empty net goal from Vincent Trocheck. But Quick was good. It wasn't the most stressful night that a Ranger goalie has faced this season, and that's because the Rangers defended very, very well. Only 20 shots on goal in this game for the Devils, and they did not have more than 7 goals on net in any of the 3 periods. So the Rangers really kind of just locking things down. And I think that, probably Quick's biggest save was the one that he made after the Devils made it 2-1. They had a chance to maybe tie it up late in this game, but there was a deflection, and Quick stayed with it all the way, made a pad save, kept the puck out of the net, and the Rangers, of course, went on to win the game. I thought Quick was also very good against the rush. That's not to say the Devils had like a ton of odd man rushes, because I thought the Rangers did defend well in this game, but there were a couple instances. They had 2 breakaways. One might have gone wide. The other, Quick definitely got a piece of it, so he made a couple of saves on breakaways, or at the very least, did not give up any goal on 2 breakaways. There was also, a 2-on-1 where Quick had to make a save. So good stuff all around. And I've said this before, but whether it's Quick, Igor, or really any goalie in this league, I think it's impressive when you can go a while without really being challenged all that much. Sometimes there's a long amount of time before you even get a shot on goal. And then when it finally does happen, you're still sharp and you're still ready to make a really nice save. And I thought we saw that on a couple occasions from Jonathan Quick in this game. What more can you say? I mean, comeback player of the year in the NHL. Show me anybody that deserves it more than he does. I think he's certainly got to be in the mix, as far as that discussion is concerned. So just awesome stuff all around from Jonathan Quick. And it's just nice to see the Rangers be able to do this where they've got 2 goalies that you can put out there and feel great about either one of them. I mean, Quick, we've talked about how a lot of people kind of left him for dead during the offseason, and the Rangers are signing him. What is even the point of that, right? If the Devils had signed Jonathan Quick, he would undoubtedly be their starting goalie by this point in the season. He would, without question, have been their best option. They've kind of gone through a couple different goalies this season. None of them have really played very well. Of course, Capo Kakkonen was in net. They traded for him. They picked him up from the Sharks. So he was making his Devil debut and actually played pretty well in this game, I thought. But regardless, Jonathan Quick is the Ranger backup. He would far and away be the best goalie on the New Jersey Devils. And you can probably say that for a couple of other teams around the league as well. Just can't say enough about the job that Jonathan Quick has done this season. And again, he got some good help from his teammates in this one. I thought the Schneider-Miller pairing looked really good. Those guys made some big-time plays on the penalty kill as well. There was one where, the Devils were at a 2-on-1, and I thought Miller, he was the one guy back, and he really held his ground, and the Devils didn't really know what to do with it, where to go, whether they should shoot, try to force a pass. And then also, we saw Schneider kind of hustling back on that play, and he got back into the play as well. And if I'm remembering this correctly, I don't think the Devils even ended up getting a shot on goal during a 2-on-1 rush. So good stuff by both defensemen there to hold up in a spot like that. And as far as an unsung hero for this game, I thought about either Wennberg or Roslovic. I'd kind of like to give it to one of the new guys. I'm actually going to go with Adam Fox. Now, of course, we'll see Fox have, better games than this. Obviously, he's somebody that racks up a bunch of points on a nightly basis. He didn't have any points in this game, but let's just give this man props for going out there and playing hockey on a day where he was said to be under the weather. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm sick, and I don't know how sick Adam Fox was. I have no idea, but when I'm sick, if something really hits me, man, I can barely pick my head off a pillow, much less go out and play hockey for the New York Rangers, which is what Adam Fox did here. And it's not like, they limited his ice time or anything along those lines. He was listed as a game time decision pretty much all day. He ends up playing, and he's out there for 23 minutes and 44 seconds of ice time. That was almost 2 minutes more than any other New York Ranger defenseman. And again, didn't have any points or anything like that. But he was a +2, had 1 shot on goal. And, again, I think you just got to give him props for playing through, whatever was ailing him a little bit earlier today. Just good stuff there from Adam Fox. Figure we could pretty much call it there. I think that the one thing I certainly also want to mention is it was Women's Empowerment Night at Madison Square Garden. Of course, the Rangers do have, these different theme nights throughout the entire season, really. We just had Pride Night not too long ago. We see Military Appreciation Night, Garden of Dreams Night, or Garden of Dreams Foundation Night might be the official name of it. But regardless, it's always very good. And we saw Angela Schemp was her name. She received a $10,000 check from former New York Ranger Nick Patillo, and he was in attendance there. And it goes to a Chase small business, and her business is Ocean View Optical. So always just nice to see the Rangers, have different theme nights and just just do a really nice job with it far more often than not. The other thought that I had, just kind of a random thought watching this game, is could this be, kind of the death knell for the New Jersey Devils? Now, of course, mathematically, they're certainly still in it, but, you look kind of where everything stands right now, and the Devils, I believe, I don't know if this has been updated or not, but I think this was their third straight loss. And per the standings page here, they're 3-7 in their last 10 games, now 31, 30, and 4. They have 66 points, and that means that they are only 6 points behind the second wildcard team, which right now is a tie between the Islanders and the Red Wings. They also trail the Capitals by 3 points. And the Devils just kind of look checked out. It's such a 180 from what we saw from the Devils last year when they would play the Rangers. And I mean, they were acting like it was game 7 every single night. I'm not even talking about the playoffs. I'm talking about the regular season and just going full bore. And they just didn't really have any jump in this game, didn't really have any fight. I mean, other than, targeting Rempe and trying to go after him, MacDermid, that is. There weren't really a lot of Devils that stood out. None of their star players were really doing much of anything. So this might be it for them. And this might have been kind of the knockout blow. And, Devils, the fans and everything, they think they deserve a banner for knocking the Rangers out in the first round. And you know what? Credit where it's due. They beat the Rangers fair and square last year. But to see them kind of just fall on their face this season, at least thus far, I'm not going to shed a tear about it. And if this was it, if the Devils don't make the playoffs, I mean, this is a big time, crippling loss for this team. It's getting late in the game here, and they still have a chance, like I said, but this is a big loss for the Devils, trying to track down a playoff spot, and the Rangers not letting them do it, or at least not on this night. But yep, figured we can pretty much call it there for tonight. Want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. If you would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.